Help is on the way, says Yvette Cooper, for those stuck in an increasingly violent Gulf region. We've heard from those in Oman, Doha, as well, of course, as Dubai, about their desire to get out. And the British government, which has, of course, a legal duty to British citizens, is obliging by setting up flights to bring people home. Not so fast, says Lib Dem leader Ed Davey, who has gone on an absolutely extraordinary rant about Brits abroad not paying taxes.
We rightly expect our brave armed forces to protect British citizens around the world in crises like this. But that includes tax exiles like Isabel Oakeshott and washed-up old footballers who mock ordinary people who stay in the UK and pay our taxes here. So as we protect them, does the Prime Minister agree it is only right for tax exiles to start paying taxes to fund our armed forces just like the rest of us do?
Why is now the moment to use people who are genuinely fearful as some sort of political football? Now is the moment to use those people and their tax brackets or lack of tax paying as something to bemoan or shout at, when they are genuinely worried about their own personal safety, as Brits who happen to find themselves in an area of some conflict. Very weird choice to go after them at this particular moment. And then there's the argument itself, which I find to be one of the most ridiculous, spurious, nonsensical displays from an apparently serious politician that I think I've seen in a long while. The argument seeming to be they've not paid in, so they shouldn't get anything. Well, fine. So where are the Lib Dems on NHS treatments for foreign nationals? Where are they in criticising the money given to and spent on asylum claimants who haven't paid in? What have taxpayers in Pakistan or Indonesia or Thailand done to earn their fair share of the £11.6 billion that has been spent in the last 5 years on climate finance aid? Is Sir Ed Davey happier for the British government to fulfil its legal obligations, sure, to asylum seekers by spending billions on it, than he is for the British government to fulfil its duty to protect British citizens? Which is worse? I didn't hear the Lib Dems go nuts about the cost of bringing Afghans on flights out of Afghanistan. I didn't hear Ed Davey asking whether they had to pay their fair share. Their argument is these Dubai Brits, with their turkey teeth and their Swiss bank accounts, don't deserve these flights because they haven't paid in. Well, apply that to all manner of individuals who come from overseas into this country, contribute nothing, have lots spent on them, and who the Lib Dems are apparently fine with. What's the difference? I don't see why he has chosen, one, this moment to go after those people, and two, is deploying this argument. Or is he arguing for some sort of exit tax or taxing people on money they have earned overseas at British rates to pay for things they don't use because they're living abroad? Jake Atkinson is campaigns manager at Tax Justice UK. Thanks so much for coming on, Jake. What do you make of Ed Davey's argument here?
The priority is absolutely the safety of British nationals in the UAE and the Middle East. It is absolutely vital that the UK is able to get them home and get them here safely. Naturally, there is a concern, right, among, or a feeling, let's say, there's a feeling among some people that people who purposely move away to avoid tax should pay their fair share. Now, whether now is the right time to be making that argument is up for debate. But what I think this issue brings into focus is that tax contributions are part of the social security system that goes far, far, far beyond just state pension, universal credit and sick pay, but to a range of things, including repatriation and our diplomatic service that are vital in times of crisis. Yep. And so obviously it is right that we have a tax system that is people-centred, that is focused on ensuring that it is positioned so that we can fund the services to get people back in these emergencies.
Don't disagree. Although the key problem is that those people who have moved overseas are paying taxes for things they're not using. They don't use the roads, the hospitals, the school system here. They're overseas.
And yes, although now they obviously will be, and rightly so, of course, coming back. And if they do return here, they should then pay tax here. I think you mentioned an exit tax. you mentioned an exit tax, right? This is one thing that I think is a really straightforward step to the government can take, right? This is something that's basically a settle-up charge, so that people who have successful businesses that grow them here because they have used workers who are educated in our school system, who are kept healthy through our NHS, and also transporting goods to market on roads that we all pay for. When you build up that successful business, you can't then just immediately move overseas to avoid paying fair share of tax.
But that
on
business
that
pays
business.
tax.
And
that business pays tax for all kinds of different things, including business rates for shops on the high street, to do exactly the things that you've just described. In fact, one of the reasons why we find ourselves in an economic hole at the moment is because so many businesses have been taxed to high heaven, and even the ones that are actually having customers come through the doors cannot seem to grow.
Well, we need to look at things like business rates, but what we're specifically saying here is billionaires, like Jim Ratcliffe, who up sticks specifically to avoid tax. And actually, what we're saying is an exit tax does that, where they pay their fair share and then move abroad. Yes, their businesses are here, their businesses still pay tax, but if they're avoiding it for their own benefit, is that they shouldn't be allowed to do so without contributing.
Well, the great sadness, Jake, is they live abroad, or they're registered abroad, what have you, and yes, they will do it for tax efficiency, of course. The great sadness for them is they don't get to live here. And this is a brilliant place, and this is a wonderful country, and when the sun's out like this is absolutely the best place to be in the world, and they avoid that because they're protecting their cash, and they have to spend however many days in that particular area.
That's a great point. We should be ensuring that this place is an incredibly fantastic place to live and to stay for everyone. People looking to avoid tax, and we absolutely support people's right to choose to move and live and work where they wish. But when people avoid tax by moving overseas, it is our public services and our communities that are hit hardest.
And the people who aren't paying any tax here, the people who are net recipients of taxpayers' money, what happens to them?
Well, people are paying tax, and we're talking about people who are making billions, the Jim Ratcliffes of the world.
Ed Davey's talking about 100,000 plus British people who have registered to get a flight out of a potential conflict zone. He's not specifically talking about... I think he mentioned Isabel Oakeshott for some reason. Now, I don't know how much Isabel Oakeshott earns, but you're talking about everyone.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, we absolutely need people to be repatriated. But what we're looking at is, why are people leaving to avoid paying tax, and why are people leaving to avoid paying their fair share when actually
because they think it's unfair? Because so many people, Jake, listen, you will see the bottom line of your paycheck recently too, I'm sure, when you get to the end of the month. The tax burden in this country has not been higher since World War II. The reason why so many people are getting out of here is because for people between the ages of 20 and about 35 at this rate, they don't see any other way to build a damn life for themselves than to get out, be able to save some money, and one day come home and maybe start to buy a house here. That's the only way.
Because they can't buy a house, because we haven't invested in housing stock.
I agree with you.
Inequality has skyrocketed.
And you're going to punish them.
We are the sixth richest economy in the world, and yet you wouldn't think about that. Walking down any high street in this country,
totally agree with you.
Feel that, right? And that is because we have billionaires and big corporations who are not paying their fair share. We need things, as I say, a wealth tax, equalising capital gains tax with income tax, so we're taxing wealth.
You'll see more people go.
That way, this country becomes a really vibrant place where people can. We have such a strong social security system, an education system, a healthcare service that people can take those risks to set up a business and give them space and opportunities to fail, to succeed, to grow, and then contribute back. The springboard for launching a business in this country, when we have high prices of energy, all of these things, is not big enough. We should be really backing people who want to go into entrepreneurship, but say when you do make it, when you become really, really, really wealthy, that you do pay your fair share.
Yes, I agree.
And so we need to be absolutely clear. I think where we're agreeing here is that it's the the super rich in this country need to pay, but it's not middle earners, it's not small businesses, and you're seeing in the UAE and Dubai, yes, a diversity of UK citizens, and there are countries around the world that have systems to follow people's income by citizenship, and to assess that there are carve-outs, there are exemptions for people, so that there's not double taxation. But essentially, we need to open that kind of discussion. But I think we need to start when looking at any changes to our tax system at just how unfair it is, where it taxes wealth far less than it taxes work.
Jake Atkinson is Campaigns Manager at Tax Justice UK. Appreciate your time this afternoon.